Welcome back to the Spector Creative channel with me, your host, Scott Toy Guru Neitlich. Been in the toy industry for about 25 years as a toy maker, designer, marketer, but I'm also a collector. And today I want to talk about something. You see what I did there with the pun? The reason I'm showing thing here is because thing is a fully tooled action figure, meaning all of his parts are original, compared to his comrade here in the Fantastic Four. Or his comrade? We're not Russians. His co-worker in the Fantastic, his fellow hero, Reed Richards, who's basically a head only. I mean, yeah, he's got stretchy arms and the ultimate nullifier, but his body is completely a reuse. He's got only a head to make a new figure. Other examples are like from the Mandalorian in the Star Wars Black series. Here we have the Heavy Gunner, also a fully tooled figure. On screen for just a little bit, but he was given a complete 100% new sculpt, no shared parts. Maybe he has a foot or something that's shared. Versus something like Wedge Antilles in the Black series, who's just a new head. It's an existing body from the Luke X-Wing pilot, where they just popped on a Dennis Lawson head, and now you have Wedge. Great way to refresh a character with minimal new tooling. So what I want to address here in this video is why we get waves like this, why we get endless, or what seems like endless, repaints and reissues, redecos of existing tools. And I want to break this down from a financial standpoint to explain the difference when producing a fully tooled figure versus a reissue or a no tool. So let's jump in and see if we can explain it all. And it's going to start, as most toy manufacturing stories do, with tooling. So as I've explained in a few videos, tooling are those giant molds that have plastic injected into them to make anything any kind of consumer good. Anything from toys to cups, Tupperware, plastic apples, spatulas, you name it. They all come out of these giant metal tools. And a tool is going to cost a company about as much as a luxury car. And that can range from $50,000 upwards to $100,000. The Castle Grayskull we did for Classics was almost $500,000 in tooling. So these things can add up, and they're a one-time investment. But to make the math simple and to not get too complicated, I'm just going to kind of round down a little bit and use simplistic numbers. We're also going to have to do a quick review of how margin works in any business, and that's the toy business, the oil business, the video game business, the spatula business. Whatever it is you're making, there is a margin between what it costs you to make it and what you can sell it for. This is how companies make money. So I've got other videos that go deep diving into this, but let's do a quick brief review. Retail margin is the profit that a retailer, so that would be your Toys R Us, your KB, your Target, your Walmart, that they make between what the toy manufacturer, your Hasbro, Mattel, Jack, Spin Master, sells the product to you for. And then you in turn sell it to a consumer at a higher price, and that the difference is your margin. That's what you make. Now, different categories at retail make different amounts of margin depending on what it is. And some categories are known as margin drivers. With the toy industry, you're going to make somewhere between 25 and 35%. So if you have a 1995 product that you're selling, like a 6-inch action figure at your Target, your Walmart, your Meijer, etc., at retail, that means you probably bought it from a toy company for about $13 wholesale. So this is what the toy company, the manufacturer, is selling it to the retailer at. And let's just say you do 20,000 units of a figure. And by that I'm being extremely generous because most action figures do not sell even close to this unless they're tied to a movie and it's a huge rage with kids. So $13 costs to buy the figure times 20,000 units means $260,000. All right, sounds great, but we also have to take into account a lot of other financial factors, such as operations, expenses, and, tooling. So we've already talked about tooling as that one-time investment that's going to cost you for a fully tooled figure like the Thing. Well, let's be generous and say it's $50,000. It's probably closer to $100,000, but for the sake of argument, we're going to use a little bit of a lower number just to kind of get a grasp on it. So you've made that investment of $50,000. So your $260,000 that you made minus your $50,000 in tooling, well, now you've made $210,000. Well, still feels like a good profit, right? I mean, making $210,000 from one figure. But first we have to take out raw materials. So the tooling is just the mold. It's not the plastic, the soft goods, the die cast, the paper and cardboard for the packaging. All of the product that go into making the product has to be accounted for in order to get your profit margin. Different from the retailer margin. The profit margin, same thing, and let's just for simplicity say it's between 25 and 35%. So that means the difference between what it costs to make it and what you're selling it for. So the wholesale price we said was about $13. That's what you're selling it to Toys R Us and Target for, you being the toy maker, the Mattel, the Hasbro, the Jakks. So if you're selling it for $13, that means it's costing you about $7 to make the toy, including the packaging, including the inner blister, all the accessories. So again, we're going with our 20,000 units of a figure, which again, I can't stress enough how generous this number is because most figures don't sell even close to 20,000 units. So we have our $7 times 20,000 units, which means it's $140,000 in raw materials. That's again just what it takes to physically make each figure, plus obviously the one-time investment of the tooling on top of that. So if we're going to add up all of the manufacturing together and include tooling, all right, so you've got your $210,000 minus the $140,000 in raw material, that leaves you with $70,000. Okay, still a nice profit, $70,000, but we haven't taken into account a lot of other major factors, like shipping. You've got to pay to get this product from China to US. There's overhead costs. You need to pay for your office rent. You have to pay the salaries of the people who make the toy. No one's going to do this for free. Plus, you also have to pay royalty fees. Marvel owns Spider-Man. Warner Brothers owns DC. Todd McFarlane owns Spawn. Okay, he doesn't have to pay himself, but if you are making a licensed figure, so let's say between the royalties, the shipping, the overhead is about $30,000. So our $70,000 in profit minus the $30,000 in operating cost leaves you with $40,000. So this is for a fully tooled figure. If you have a figure that's not fully tooled, let's say like Wedge here who just needs a head, maybe he's about $10,000 in tooling, but let's just pretend we already have the wedge head. The wedge head, yeah, I did say that right. Let's just say you already had that and he was a complete reissue with no tooling involved. So that $50,000, which again is probably closer to $100,000, but again, let's just, for the sake of argument, we can take that out of the picture, assuming that we don't have to tool this figure at all. So that means you're going to take your $40,000 and add back in the $50,000 you spent on tooling, and now you've made $90,000. Heck, if you put in $100,000, which is a much more accurate tooling bill, well, now your profit's $140,000 versus just making $90,000. So if you're looking at it from a company's perspective, a fully tooled figure is going to bring you about $40,000 of profit versus potentially $90,000 or $140,000 if you had to fully tool that figure. Big, big difference. And that is exactly why we get reissues and redecos. Removing that one-time tooling cost is the difference between profitability and breaking even. And I used really lowball numbers here, so this was just meant to be an example. But I hope it explained why we get so many reissues, because fully tooled figures really bite into profit margin. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more of it, let me know in the comments what topics to handle. A subscription always is great because that tells YouTube to share this with other people. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.